Welcome back to today's video. In today's video, I'm looking at the 2024 House of Representatives election prediction. Now, as we begin, today's video, guys, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. Only 2.2% of those of you who watch this channel actually subscribe. So do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. Really helps out with the algorithm. Let's get right into it. Welcome back to LT Elections 2024. Here at LT Elections 2024, we cover House, Senate, and general elections looking forward on to 2024. Now, as we begin today's video, guys, we're going to be taking a look at several factors which will influence the 2024 House race. Factors including the approval rating of new Speaker, House Speaker Mike Johnson, the factors playing into several of the close races, including several races in New York, several races in Ohio and Indiana, and especially in states like California, you have extremely close races, which are going to be extremely important. We're going to be pointing out those specific races, taking a look also at the approval rating of House Speaker Mike Johnson, taking a look at the 2022 midterm and seeing what that has to explain for us into 2024. And we're going to be getting into all of that and closing this video with a final prediction, which I have already made. But we're going to be taking a look at the different factors and the different seats that are going to be extremely important in the 2024 election. So to begin with here, let's take a look at our current House map. Our current House map, obviously, our House of Representatives has 435 members in total, including Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. Independents have not taken any seats, but including Democrats and Republicans, we can see the Democrats have 213 and Republicans have 222 seats. So taking a look at some key races which are going to be extremely important in 2024. Some key races, including in the state of Colorado, Colorado's 3rd congressional district, Lauren Boebert, an incumbent Republican who won re-election by a slim 546 votes, did win re-election in 2022. All that being said, I doubt that she's going to win re-election in 2024 just because of some more recent things that she's been doing in Congress have not been actually very favorable towards the majority of Americans, really. And I do not believe, will win re-election in 2024. But taking a look here at some other states which are going to be extremely important, California and its 13th congressional district, you have the Republican who won in 2022. And again, this is the 2022 map, just so that way you're aware. It was a flipped seat. He won it by 0.4%. So won it by a pretty small margin. It could be tentative. It's pretty tentative margin there that could change in future elections. Moving on to your 22nd congressional district in the state of California, we see that the Republican incumbent won in that state by around 1% there, 1%, 3,000 votes there, around 3,000 votes. Taking a look here at another congressional district, the 41st congressional district, an incumbent Republican won in that state by a pretty large margin, about 4.5% there in that state respectively. Taking a look here at the state of Oregon, another extremely important race here. Its 5th congressional district in the state of Oregon. It was actually a flipped seat. Republicans won in that state by 1.1% there. It was a flipped seat there in the state of Oregon. In the state of Washington, we had a 3rd congressional district. The 3rd congressional district, Democrats won in that state by 0.8%. It was a flipped seat. I believe you had an incumbent, maybe not an incumbent Republican, but it was a flipped seat there. So moving on here, taking a look at the state of Michigan and its 7th congressional districts, Democrats did pull in the lead by a pretty big margin there. You did see that by a pretty big margin. Taking a look here at the state of New Mexico, you have the 2nd congressional district. Democrats won by a tiny margin, 1,350 votes. Pretty big, actually, when you consider that. It was a flipped seat. For a flipped seat, winning a flipped seat by 0.7% is a sizable margin there for the Democrats there. Taking a look at the state of North Carolina, you have the 1st congressional district. You have Democrats sailing through the lead there in a pretty good manner there. It is a pretty good 5-point lead, is a pretty big lead. Taking a look here at the state of New York, let's go ahead and just take a look at some specific districts. The 22nd congressional district, you had 2 new candidates, I believe, 1% there in the lead there for the Republicans. And then you have the 19th congressional district. This was actually a flip district. You have the Republicans in the lead by around 1% there. Also, the state of Pennsylvania. And again, guys, these are the important districts that are going to be extremely important in 2024. The 8th congressional district, Democrats won by a pretty good margin. Anything that's a tilt margin that's around 2 points is a pretty good 1.5% there. You have here obviously the 7th congressional district, right below the 8th congressional district. A Democrat incumbent won there by 2%. Close race there once again. Iowa, another key race here. We have the 3rd congressional district. Republicans were actually able to flip this district rather, from an incumbent Democrat. Okay, so we're also going to take a look at the state of Colorado and the 8th congressional district. Democrats won by a 0.7% margin, along with the state of Nebraska and its 2nd congressional district, an extremely important congressional district which voted for Biden in the 2020 election, rather, by a very, very 6-point margin there, actually. But Republicans have been taking this district by a pretty good margin. They won this district by around 2.5%, around that margin. This is a district which Republicans have been winning consistently, although Biden did win in the 2020 midterm there, in the 2020 election, rather. But those are some of your key races just to be aware of there. You might just want to know some of these districts because they are going to be extremely important, especially with the House of Representatives. It's much more complicated to go through the House of Representatives compared to your Senate or your House or your general election, rather, due to the fact that there's so many districts. The districts which I've just pointed out are going to be extremely important districts. But taking a look here at the Cook Political Report. So for the Cook Political Report, we do see some districts that are going to be extremely important in 2024. These are probably going to be, I would say, like the top 60, 70 districts that you want to make sure that you know. The other districts are probably going to be solid Republican or solid Democrat. There, it would be basically an either or scenario in that situation. But you see here some likely Democratic seats. And by the way, the link for this article is in the link in the description below. So make sure you go and check that link in the description below. Make sure you're able to do that. It's going to be an extremely important article. But it kind of gives you some general ideas. Likely Democrat, lean Republican, likely Republican districts. You also have your toss-up seats. So when you count your toss-up seats, you have 25 Democrat and Republican toss-up seats. No independents control any seats. But taking a look here, we see here that we have several districts that most of these I've already pointed out. Some of these are pretty lean or likely. All that being said, Cook Political Report has listed them as being toss-up. Toss-up just means that they're swing districts, basically. But you can see, for example, Colorado's 8th Congressional District, California's 27th Congressional District, the 22nd Congressional District, 13th Congressional District, Florida's 5th Congressional District. I don't believe Florida's 5th Congressional District. Let me just go and check this out. I don't believe that it's a lean. So yeah, Florida's 5th congressional district. I believe that there will be an election happening relatively soon in 2024. But yeah, those are some of your important districts there that are going to be extremely important. So basically, 25 congressional districts. You have Democrats controlling 10 of them. Democrats controlling 10 of them, and Republicans controlling 15 of them. Okay, so those are that's where it is at. You can also click on these in order to see some different polling data, I would believe. So some different polling data for those districts and where they're headed. But again, guys, the link for this article is in the description below. Just wanted to point this out. It'll be extremely easy for you to track all these districts. The districts other than these, a lot of these districts are going to be safe. For example, go to Texas here. Go to the 23rd Congressional District. Republicans won by a pretty solid margin. Going down to, for example, Vermont. Okay, Vermont, it's one congressional house at large. You can see the Democrats won by a pretty big margin. Libertarians scored quite a few points there. But as you can see, for a majority of these races, you do see that for most parties, they do win by a sizable margin in a majority of these districts. The ones that are listed here are a good summary of most of them. I may disagree with whether they're being tossed up or lean or likely. That being said, it does give you a good idea of some of the main districts to keep an eye on in 2024 as we're approaching there. Now, taking a look here at House Speaker Mike Johnson, what do Americans think about it? Well, House Speaker Mike Johnson is more favorable than the former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The reason why he's more favorable is, I believe, one of the reasons is because not very many Americans know about it. So, for example, Kevin McCarthy and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, they kind of had a track record of being very unfavorable. Nancy Pelosi was not necessarily the most favorable House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy as well, extremely unfavorable. But taking a look at some more recent House elections that have been taking place here, you can see that Republicans did lose by pretty large margins. But now you have a new face on the scene, and that is House Speaker Mike Johnson. And the fact of the matter is, not very many Americans know about him. In fact, a large number of Americans do not even know about him. know about him. Among all U.S. adult citizens, 39% of Americans here do not know about him. Among Democrats, 35% don't know about him. Among independents, 50% don't know about him. Republicans, only 30%, obviously, since Mike Johnson is a Republican. But as you can see, a lot of Americans do not know who my House Speaker Mike Johnson is, which is good for him. Although that being said, when it comes to the 2024 race, you have to recognize that in 2024, these margins will be going extremely down. These gray margins here will be going extremely down. And several of these margins right over here for the strongly or somewhat approve and for the strongly or somewhat disapprove will be going up as the 2024 race approaches, because more and more Americans will be listening as the race continues to unfold. But taking a look at his approval rating, you can see here that among Democrats, he has a 15% strongly or somewhat approval rating. Among Republicans, he has a 63% approval rating. Again, 40% of Americans do not know who he is. So that's an extremely, extremely important issue in order to be aware of that the majority of Americans do not know who he is. A lot of Americans do have opinions on him. Well, that being said, he does have a pretty good approval rating compared to most House speakers that were formerly in office. Just taking a look here at Kevin McCarthy. So Kevin McCarthy here, you can see some different data about where he stood with regards to different groups such as millennials, Gen Z, baby boomers. His popularity, obviously, a lot of different issues that you could think of with regards to him there for Kevin McCarthy. So with all that being said, we're looking at several of the races that we were looking at, the approval rating. We're going to come down to a final map for what I believe the 2024 race is. Now, a lot of you guys will probably disagree with this house map. I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree with this. So please write down in the comment section whether or not you disagree with this. Please make sure to keep it civil. Let's go ahead and take a look at my map. So my map right now is I have Republicans at 218 seats and Democrats at 217 seats. Now, guys, this is an extremely, extremely, extremely close race. Now, the reason why I'm giving this as being an extremely close race is because of the fact that Republicans underperformed in the 2022 elections, in the 2023 elections. That being said, you have to recognize that Republicans were lower in the poll numbers ahead of the 2022 midterm and ahead of the 2023 elections. So you can kind of expect that off of the bat. All that being said, taking a look at a majority of these states, I have come to a conclusion that Democrats will lose a majority, but barely. I think that they will lose a majority. So Republicans 218, Democrats at 217. A lot of your key districts here, for example, you have Iowa's 3rd Congressional District, you have California's 13th Congressional District, California's 22nd Congressional District. Also, we have Michigan and its 7th Congressional District as well. You have North Carolina and its 1st Congressional District. A lot of these districts are going to be extremely important, guys. Again, guys, the link for this article right here will be in the description below from the Cook Political Report. Subscribe to this channel, obviously, guys. Only 2.2% of those of you who watch this channel in the last 28 days have subscribed. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next video.